Ever since this game was announced, there's been all this controversy around it. But now that I finally had a chance to get my hands on it and try it out for myself, I can confirm that despite all that controversy, this was actually really, really good. Well, what's up again there, guys? Brian here, the 3 Topics Gamer, here to share another one of my game reviews, and this time I'll be giving you my review on the newly released and highly anticipated next entry in the Ghost series from Sucker Punch, this one being titled Ghost of Yotei. Now, if you happen to enjoy this review by the end, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to track me on my future reviews and videos. And remember, if any of you guys have any ideas for future rankings, discussions, or just, any sort of topics you would like me to discuss in the future, please let me know what you would like to see in the comments down below, and I will try to get it up to you as soon as I can, as well as to give you a shout out. So, Ghost of Yotei is the sequel to Ghost of Tsushima that follows a new character. And as I stated at the beginning of the video, there's been a lot of controversy around it. But I do think that this is a very, very good game. And I kind of like to go into each individual department one by one. So without wasting any more time, let's start off with what I think is always the most important element of any game, at least in my opinion, and that is the story. The main story takes place about 300 years after the events of Ghost of Tsushima, and we follow the character Atsu, who is forced to watch her entire family die and is left for dead by a group known as the Yotei 6. When she grows up after spending a number of years away, she returns to her homeland and after successfully killing one of the members of the Yotei 6 while he's drunk, goes on a journey to hunt down and kill the remaining 5 members. Now, while Atsu's story of revenge from the outside might have many similarities to her other revenge stories told, one example being the Kill Bill series, what surprised me the most is that this story took a few directions that I really wasn't expecting, but I don't really want to spoil them for anyone that hasn't played this game yet or is interested in, so I would suggest you jump to this point here to avoid spoilers. Where this story really got interesting for me is that early on in the game, Atsu discovers that not only has her brother been alive this whole time, but she now has a niece that looks up to her and has a similar fighting spirit to herself. On top of that, she then builds a very strong friendship with one of the members of the Yotei 6 who was there when her family was attacked. Most characters are at their most dangerous when they are seeking revenge, having lost everything, and not having anything to lose. But now, Atsu finds herself in a position where she now has a new family, but the path of vengeance that she's been on for some time has the potential of putting not only them in danger, but pushes Atsu into doing some intense actions that makes her borderline psychopathic and becoming almost as bad as the member of the Yotei 6 while she's hunting them. The story of Jin from Ghost of Tsushima focused on a man that was raised to be a samurai, but once he encountered an enemy that understood the samurai mentality and used it against them to destroy them, in order to survive, Jin had to go against everything that he was taught to become the first true shinobi. But by doing this, though he was successful in saving his land, he became an enemy of the samurai to the very people that he fought so hard to save. And we find out in this game what his ultimate fate was when he left Tsushima. Atsu's story in Ghost of Yotei is very different and brings a number of ideas in different directions that helps to tell a very familiar type of story in a different way, and that grants it a lot of depth that I found myself enjoying quite a bit. Now, there was a lot of hesitation around the main character, or technically the actress who portrays the main character, and to be fair, you actually can choose either voices, whether it's, you choose English or the Japanese voice, but overall, Atsu is a fantastic character. In fact, in my opinion, she's easily probably one of the best main protagonist characters we've had in the PlayStation brand in some time. And she's not just a great female character, because her gender doesn't really define her, but she's just a well-written character that goes through all kinds of problems, ups and downs, makes all kinds of mistakes. She at no point is a boss babe. She is at no point woke. She is not a lesbian. She is none of those things that we don't like seeing in modern gaming. She is just a well-written character with multiple dimensions that goes through multiple changes, makes plenty of mistakes, and has to learn from them. And also, in my opinion, I think they do a little bit more for character than they did with Jin. Not better than Jin, but just they do a little bit more that gives her a number of dynamic elements to her character that I really did appreciate over the course of my time playing the game. And another major advantage that I would certainly give this story over Ghost of Tsushima is how they handle the villains. And it's somewhat comparable to the Kill Bill series, in which they have a collection of targets and they don't necessarily spend a lot of time with any one character. But you do enough with them that they very much stand out on their own when they're doing their individual things. And they are considerably better than what we got from the Khan and Ghost of Tsushima, which, in my opinion, was the least thing that I enjoyed about that game at all, because that character was so one-dimensional, so cartoonish, so one-dimensional that he would not change over the course of the game, that it just kind of got annoying by the end of the game. But this game's villains don't have that issue. And there are some elements that go pretty deep that I really wasn't expecting. So I would say in the story department, I actually did appreciate some of the decisions that the writers chose to go down this road in this game. And I think people that do go through this game will enjoy it as well. When it comes to gameplay, much like Ghost of Tsushima, Ghost of Yotei is an open-world action-adventure title that is separated between exploration and combat. When it comes to exploration, right from the very beginning, you are given as much freedom to explore as much as you want in the first area. And as you progress, you'll gain access to different areas that are not immediately connected to the first roaming area. There are also a number of activities that are similar to Ghost of Tsushima that you can take part in, such as cutting down bamboo, or seeking charms, or taking baths to increase your health, or even exploring fox dens. But there are also several new activities, such as you can take a moment to set up camp and then cook a meal, which, depending on your meal, will grant you a combat perk for a period of time. Or you can venture to a specific location and draw a picture of beautiful sights that Atsu will see. Or you can even take another moment and play some lovely music that you can learn over the course of the game. These three activities specifically take advantage of the touchpad on your DualSense controller, and though it is a small detail, I always enjoy when PlayStation titles take advantage of the functions of the DualSense controller. You can also take part in missions to help out multiple wolf packs from raiders, and as you rescue more wolves, you can actually form a bond with a specific wolf who will fight at your side, and in certain situations can actually jump out of nowhere to help you out in a battle situation should you need a little extra support. When it comes to combat, everything that you loved about Ghost of Tsushima is here. It's just been slightly altered and expanded on. When it comes to weapons, Atsu's arsenal is far greater than Jan's. Now, as opposed to needing to switch between different fighting stances while using your katana, this time Atsu has access to 5 different weapons that all have their own unique fighting attack patterns. You also have access to more weapons that can be thrown at enemies, and you even have access to a couple of different guns that can be quite useful in a fight. There are also plenty of missions and bounties that you can complete to not only give you more money, but access to different kinds of sword kits and armor sets. Speaking of armor, much like Ghost of Tsushima, different armor sets will grant you an advantage depending on how you want to change up your playstyle. But what Ghost of Yotei has done is it allows you to create 5 different armor builds that you can switch between depending on a wide variety of different combat scenarios. Everything that you collect from charms, armors, weapons can be upgraded and customized with different colors that you can purchase over the course of the game. A small detail that I noticed is that as you defeat raider forces and take over small towns and outposts, that friendly forces will actually accompany you and at random times can actually fight off attacking forces, and you can either choose to join in or watch the battle from a distance. Now, there are several one-on-one duels you can take part in, and in my opinion, they are much more challenging than anything I encountered in Ghost of Tsushima, and I was playing on standard difficulty and still having a tough time with many of the later boss fights. When it comes to the gameplay department, I really was happy that Ghost of Yotei didn't venture too far from what you had experienced in the first game, and because of that, I did take a little bit of time kind of rehashing my skills with Ghost of Tsushima first, and then jump into Ghost of Yotei, and the transition was very smooth. There was like a couple things I had to get a little bit better at, especially pairing. Pairing is incredibly important with the build that I chose to use over the course of the game, and that was something I appreciate. But having that close proximity to the old game is something I think a lot of fans of the first game are really going to enjoy. And there are certainly a number of gameplay elements that I haven't spoiled in this game that I would like to keep secret. I think a lot of people are going to be very welcoming. It's a lot of the same, but it's just expanded upon and slightly smoothened out. And I think the improvements are there. They're not grand in the sense, but they are noticeable there for someone who did have a lot of time playing the first game and went into this game kind of, expecting these massive improvements, which they're there aren't massive improvements again, but they're noticeable, and that is something I did appreciate. So gameplay wise, it absolutely works. I mean, it was just an absolute fun time, and I had plenty of moments where I would just go around and just explore the world and just kind of see and take in the environment, or just help some some local people and kill some raiders. I mean, I just had a great time playing this game.
When it comes to its visuals, Ghost of Yotei is a beautiful looking game. Graphics-wise, I don't think it's a major improvement over Ghost of Tsushima, as even by today's standards, that game is still beautiful, as I do own the Director's Cut PlayStation 5 version of the game, but some visual elements are quite noticeable, especially when it comes to certain locations that really help Ghost of Yotei stand apart from Ghost of Tsushima when it comes to different locations that you can explore. The music in Ghost of Yotei is also very exceptional. Whether it's quiet moments where characters are just sitting around a campfire talking about their lives, or taking part in an epic battle that really gets the heart pounding. All these elements brought together provide an excellent experience that fans of Ghost of Tsushima are certain to enjoy.
Now, in conclusion, no matter what anyone says online, I would suggest you play this for yourself and come up with your own conclusion. But in my personal opinion, Ghost of Yotei, if we really are to compare them to Ghost of Tsushima, I do think that Ghost of Yotei has a number of advantages that, in my opinion, makes it the slightly better game. Now compare that to another Sucker Punch franchise in the form of Infamous 1 and Infamous 2. Both of these games on their own are very, very strong games. And everything that you liked in Infamous 1 is in Infamous 2. They just expanded upon it and made a couple of changes with the story to make it a little bit different. So while I do think the story is a little bit stronger in the first game, especially with probably one of the best surprise endings that I've ever experienced in gaming, I do think overall Infamous 2 is a better game, but by a small amount. And the same dynamic very much works when it comes to these two games. Both of them are very, very strong in their own rights. They can both hold their own. But Ghost of Yotei just has a lot of things from this game just slightly improved upon. And heck, that's not a bad thing. So overall, if I had to give Ghost of Yotei a rating, I think, given how much tougher I am on sequels, I think without question, Ghost of Yotei is a strong 9 out of 10. A lot of improvements. They weren't big, they were kind of small, but they were noticeable. I did have a lot more fun. I do think the story is a little bit stronger, but the villain aspect is really the thing that gives it, in my opinion, a much significant edge over Ghost of Tsushima in the story department. That's really the one thing that I was very, very hesitant and worried about. And they did manage to kind of do a solid enough job with the villain aspect to at least make sure I had a really good time with the story. And I really loved the ending. The ending was definitely a much different tone than what we got in the first game, and that's something I really appreciated. Now, before I close, I would just like to say that if you're one of those viewers who think that I was paid or I'm some type of shill, you can kind of get the hell out of here. I was not paid. I wasn't sweet talked by anyone. These are my own opinions. In fact, if anything, I went out of my way and spent $250 to get the collector's edition. So if I was going to spend that much money, this game had better be good. So I'm happy to confirm that, yeah, I think I spent my $250 of my own money very, very well. So that is my review of Ghost of Yotei. If you did happen to play this, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I'll see you guys next time.